This is the gentleman from Utah, Mr. Bishop, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure we all know the old story of the newlywed couple whose wife, on her first meal that she prepares as the cooked ham, presents the ham, and the two ends have been cut off. And when her husband asks why, she says, "I don't know, that's the way my mother did it." And when the mother-in-law shows up, they ask why, and she said, "I don't know, that's the way my mother did it." And when the grandmother finally arrives and they ask why she cut the ends of the ham off, the grandmother simply says, "I have a small oven, a full ham won't fit." There are many things we do in government that are traditions as totally illogical as cutting the ends of the ham off. Only in a federal court in this United States can we find a special interest group that can track down a maverick judge that contend that 8 months of study by the Department of Interior is in fact a last-minute review. And because in January of this year, the Department of Interior and the National Park Service finally updated its rules to allow concealed carry on national park land and make it consistent with our policy of concealed carry on all public lands. You see, the National Forest does not prohibit someone with a valid concealed carry license from going on public lands. The Bureau of Land Management, which manages some of our national parks, does not prohibit a valid concealed carry permit from going on their lands. Even President Clinton gave an executive order saying that our policies should reflect the state prerogative and authority. Only the National Park Service has tried to prohibit that practice. And the National Park Service is not just things like Yellowstone. It is virtually impossible, or at least will challenge you, to try to get from Virginia into Washington, D.C. without either driving or walking on National Park Service land. You go in and you go out. There are no signs to tell you what you were doing, and indeed, law-abiding citizens have been entrapped on Park Service land carrying a concealed weapon permit, where if they had gone a couple of blocks further and would be back in Virginia, that would indeed be legal. That is illogical, and it's also unfair. What we should do is what the National Park Service decided to do in January and simply say state laws will be the ruling procedure. If it's legal for a concealed carry in this state, it is legal on all lands that are owned and controlled by the federal government, not just some lands yes and some lands no. Mr. Hastings of Washington has an amendment that should be put on the bill that will be before us tomorrow to clarify once again that the policy of the United States should be consistent on all of their lands, not on some, and not some yes and some not on the others. It was an amendment that would bring respect back to the policy and the consideration and the study done by the Department of Interior, and would reject an outstandingly flawed decision made by a judge that actually creates chaos rather than solving this particular problem. It is important that the Rules Committee does open up this particular bill for allowing the Hastings Amendment so that we can actually debate this issue on the floor, because this is the proper time, this is the proper vehicle, and it is the right time for us to have consistency on our public land policy, not chaos in our public land policy created by a judicial decision. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes